We are back, day 2 of RecFest. We are here again. I'm here with some new friends to talk to today. And we are here to ask the question that we ask as recruiters 1,000 times a day. It's time to finally start asking ourselves. So I'm here with my new friend, Sean Page. Sean, before we get started, I always need to ask, is this still a good time?
Yes, this is definitely a great time.
Okay, perfect. I asked, no one's ever stood me up yet, but if you've ever done an interview, which of course you have,
Yes.
you know how many times you've asked this question. So Sean and I met 5 minutes ago, and I said, want to come on a podcast? And he's here. Sean, you are TA manager at Propel. Just for everyone listening, because I know you, tell me about Propel.
Yeah, of course. So Propel is a mobile app that's specifically targeting low-income Americans and helping them get access to social safety net programs. So thinking like SNAP, Medicare, EBT, and basically helping them get easy access to those benefits, as well as we offer opportunities for them to make money and save money through our app as well.
Okay, that's awesome. I thought it was like water, but you probably hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that is such a cooler Propel. So I'm glad to learn that. So we're on day 2.
Yes.
I always start our podcast. We always like to talk about what I call the recruiter breakdown, because us recruiters are always on the verge of a breakdown. Were you here yesterday?
Yes, I was.
Okay. How's RecFest going? What's your feeling so far?
Yeah, I think RecFest is a really wonderful experience. I literally love the music festival aspect of it, which a lot of times when we go to conferences, we're stuck in like dark rooms and, we're trying to awkwardly navigate, meeting new people. And I feel like here it's been very laid back, relaxed. People are really here to have fun. And so I think for me, that really makes it just a really rewarding experience. And I met quite a few new colleagues, as well as some colleagues that I've met over LinkedIn and podcasts and things of that nature. And so it's really nice to get that human connection.
Do you do other festivals and conferences, or is this the one?
That's a great question. So I actually have not been to a conference in over 5 years.
Okay.
So this has been my first post-pandemic conference.
Okay.
And I'm hoping there'll be many more after this.
Yeah. That was RecFest last year for me. And it was sort of the best one. But I asked because I get this all the time, right? It's just how much better this conference is than these other ones, that we're not stuck in the ballroom.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything interesting yesterday? Any talks, anything sticking with you?
Yeah, I definitely did. I did go to a number of AI talks around AI agents and talking more about the AI platforms that a lot of these companies out here are using today. And I think one that really stuck with me was Humanly. I actually got to meet with their CEO and I had a follow-up question to his presentation. And I'm just really amazed by how much thought he's putting into his platform and just really thinking about sort of the whole life cycle and not just candidate interviewing, but how that influences, when we look at JDs or when we look at sourcing and other aspects of the hiring funnel. So yeah, it was a really great conversation.
Okay, cool. And something we talk about a ton, on the podcast and in the newsletter, is there's just this inundation of AI tools, right? Mm-hmm. There's a billion of them, and how do we know a good one, and how do we not know, and how do we know what we want to work with? So for recruiters that are listening, as someone who's here and sort of comes to this, came for the first time in 5 years, but comes to these events, how do you know, right? What makes one of these AI companies stand out to you as oh yeah, you're here to make hiring better, versus oh, you're a tech bro that's just sort of building things for us? How do you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say for the way that I look at it, because we're a 100-person startup, is really looking at quality of hire, and do they really understand the definition of quality of hire and how that really impacts the sort of growth trajectory of a startup. And so for me, what I really look at is, are they really looking at the pain points of what quality of hire really encompasses, and really understanding not just, hey, I'm just throwing out a tool out there because I care about the candidate experience, but let's be for real, us as recruiters, what we really care about is the hiring manager experience and making sure that they're aligned with who they're talking with. And so someone that's really thoughtful about those insights that can not only recruiters can learn about through those interviews, but also to insights that they can share with hiring managers so that they can be better interviewers is so important. And so whenever I talk to one of these tech bros that are making these platforms, that they understand that this is an ecosystem. This is not just a one-off experience, and we're not looking at one type of users. It's multiple users that are involved in this process, and that's what makes hiring so complex. And so I think for me, that's what I look for.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So I want to hear from you, as someone who doesn't know you or kind of what you've dealt with. But I know every time I ask these questions, I hear stories that it's always funny because I think every listener, every reader, and me, I'm always just like, oh yeah, for sure, heard that one. Recruiting can be a nightmare.
Yes.
What is your recruiting nightmare story?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think for me, one of my biggest recruiting nightmare stories was actually happened during the offer stage process.
Okay.
So I was working with this relatively new hiring manager who wasn't accustomed to our internal hiring process. And so the company that they were accustomed to was used to lowballing candidates. And so I remember one of my recruitment nightmare stories is I was trying to, advocate for the candidate. I was trying to coach the hiring manager. I was like, hey, look, I think we really need to make sure that we're at least aiming for this number, at least above the midpoint because, this candidate's coming in. They have a lot of competing offers. We really should put our best offer forward. And because they came from another environment that was used to being lowballing candidates, they were really aggressively pushing back on it. And they were like, well, if they're a great candidate, they're going to negotiate and they'll get to that place anyway. I'm comfortable getting them to that place. And I was like, well, if you're comfortable getting them to that place, let's not just start at that place. And so we were going back and forth, and it became such a philosophical issue. And so I was like, hey, you know what? My job here is just to advise you. So if you want to go and lowball them and then see if we can go from there, let's do it and see. And of course I was right. We lowballed the candidate. They immediately were taken aback by the lowball. They were just like, well, it doesn't feel like you're respecting my time. And so we didn't even get to the negotiation part. They just decided to decline our offer altogether.
Sure.
And so for me, that was a nightmare story because, I had to basically start over from scratch that pipeline because this hiring manager decided that they were going to, lowball a candidate.
Yeah. That is such the risk, right? And it's such an antiquated view on these things, too. That's such just the old, we say this and they'll say this. And that's how candidates get that idea. And then candidates pull that crap, right? Where they're just like, well, I know the offer you give isn't the real offer. And we're going to go, just why? Why the games? And we've all had those managers like, no, we have to do that. Because, if they're just going to ask for too much. So I hate for you that it happened, but I love that candidate declined it right away. I love when just a manager has to see that happen.
Yeah.
And just okay. Maybe listen to a recruiter every now and then. Okay. So recruiting's hard, right? The reason I started this podcast, the reason I started the newsletter and do all these things is just we are out here alone a lot, right? The internet hates us. We're just public enemy number one in the corporate world, internally and externally. I feel like recruiters the least favorite people, in the spot. How do you cope with it, right? You show up every day, you do this. How do you cope with sort of how tough this job has become the last few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, it's really building community. So I have a community of recruiters that I built over time, whether through my actual job or just through Slack communities and other channels that I meet recruiters. And recruiters that I met here during these last 2 days. And so I think having a really strong community matters. I think also too, I've just been really fortunate. At my current company, I started off with low trust with our hiring managers because they had a bad experience, with past recruiters. And so I had to reestablish that trust. And now after 4 years, I have a really strong coalition of hiring managers that really believe in me and, that say thank you all the time and really advocate for me. I think for me, I've been very fortunate that I was able to turn around that experience. And now recruitment is looked at as a strategic function at my company.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have how big's your team?
So I'm actually a team of one right now. I'm going to be
Beautiful.
hiring another recruiter later this year.
Yeah. Okay. Good luck with it. You are going to get a lot of applications. But anyway, is it remote or is it on-site?
It's going to be a remote role. Yes.
So whoever's listening, right, I know there's probably out-of-work recruiters. Tune in, get ready. Find Propel, not the water company. Look for the job coming. Sean, I appreciate this. I know you said you have a talk you want to get to, and I pulled you in very quickly.
Yes.
I'm assuming it is starting right now.
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to let you go. I definitely appreciate it. It was great to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. And it was great talking.
Yeah, great talking to you too.
Sean. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, I am here again with another new friend. I was saying that day one, I invited people I know really well. I was like, that's fun, but I want to interview new people and get to meet new people. So I'm here with Desirée Aguirre, and she is the senior recruiter at Hims and Hers, which is awesome. Before I get started, though, I always need to just know, because we ask this question 1,000 times, but we never ask ourselves. Is this still a good time?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. I even had just sent you a text because I didn't know she was standing right behind. I thought we were late, which is why we had to cut off. And I sent you a DM that just said, "Does this time still work?" And I was like, "God, I'm such a fucking recruiter." Like this is just like the classic 2 minutes, like 2 minutes in, like, "Does this time still work? Do you need to reschedule?"
Right,
Like,
yeah.
where are we gonna go? Thank you for coming and
Yeah,
for sitting
of
down with
course.
me. I saw you at a conference in June. We both saw each other speak.
Yeah.
And then, like classic, like introvert recruiters didn't talk to each other while doing so, and just like stuck in with our own conversation. So I'm glad we got to sit down. I like to start with the breakdown.
Yeah.
Because recruiters are on the verge of a breakdown always. And today and yesterday for the breakdown, what I really like to talk about is RecFest because we're here. We're here on day 2. How's RecFest been for you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's
Yeah.
giving carnival meets conference vibes.
Is this your first one?
First one? Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is that different feel. You've been to enough, I'm sure. Stuffy,
Yes.
Vegas conference room.
Yep.
Yeah, giant expo hall conferences. This is different.
Yeah.
The weather's nicer today.
Yes, it is. There's
Yes.
a nice kind of cool breeze coming in,
it's a
which has
little
been
breeze.
helpful.
It's not so hot. Do you see anything interesting on day 1 or 2 so far? Talks that are sticking with you?
Yeah, so I sat in some really interesting sessions. Like there was a session at the Innovate stage yesterday that was talking about like talent slate as a kind of a new metric, and
Okay.
in terms of looking at efficiency of the funnel and the quality of candidates coming through. So that was a really fascinating session that was hosted by Ford and Melissa
Okay.
Thompson.
I've heard that referenced a few times.
Yeah.
I missed it, but it sounds like people were hearing something interesting.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that one. And then today, been kind of checking out some of the booths that I didn't get to stop by yesterday.
Today's
so
swag day. You have
Today's
the
swag
bandana
day,
on.
yeah.
I'm wearing a
Mhm.
t-shirt. I don't even remember what company it's from. It's that day to go get all the swag. Yeah, awesome. That always is day 2. And day 2 is when they're just like hoping to not have to pack it up also.
Right,
And
yeah,
there's like,
exactly.
take 2.
Yeah,
I have
I'd
two
love to, yep.
2 chupacabras to bring back to my kids.
Aw, cute.
They were like, well, we can give you 1. I was like, I have to take 2 or 0.
Yeah.
I cannot come home with one of these. Yeah, this is like when I come on these trips, everything is just like for my kids. I haven't bought them a souvenir on these trips in years. I'm just
Yeah.
like, they have a bed full of branded stuffed animals.
Aw, cute. Yeah.
And it's just
love
like,
that.
yeah, these are real. I bought these.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we always love to hear from people. One of the things I love asking recruiters, because we all have the same stories with our own little kind of twist on them, and because recruiting is a nightmare, even though we do it and we show up anyway, I want to know, what is your recruiting nightmare story?
Yeah. So my nightmare story, this was many years ago. I was hiring for a role, and I had extended to an offer to a candidate that was, the panel loved her. She was a really strong yes. Upon extending the offer, she let me know she needed a visa sponsorship.
Okay.
And so, there was the moment of dread where you're like, oh crap, like, did I forget to ask questions? Like, how did I get to this point and not know this information? And so I would say, obviously you're having kind of a panic moment, but you want to tell the candidate, work through this, like, let me see, what I can do. I wanted to get the information about the type of visa, took thorough notes of all the details, right? And then went back and was kind of, oh crap, did I forget to ask a question? I looked at my notes, asked the question. She had disclosed at that time that she did not require one. I looked
Okay.
at the application. She disclosed she did not require one. So I was like, oh. So then had to kind of, go to legal team, and it was a whole bunch of hoops and things to kind of jump through of like, what can we do? Can we sponsor this individual?
Yeah.
Can we make it happen? And I would probably say it was maybe then like an additional week of just kind of figuring out details, and so then trying to keep the candidate warm at that time, and hopefully we don't lose them. And then unfortunately legal came back and said no.
Sure.
So that was a nightmare too, in terms of having to kind of like rescind that offer, which like I don't like having to do
To be
things
fair,
like
that
that.
rescinding is their fault.
Sure.
That was
yeah.
on them. Like, I know
yeah.
it sucks to do.
Yeah.
But like, that almost would make me more upset about the internal.
Yeah.
Like, because I know that no manager believed you.
Yeah.
I don't know your managers,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
almost no hiring manager I know would have believed you that you actually like checked and made sure and
Yeah.
like looked and got tricked. Like,
Right.
They
Yeah,
go
yeah.
right away to like the recruiter screw up there.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
is probably what happened. But
Yeah.
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Why do these candidates lie about
I know,
these things?
yeah, and especially like to go through so far through the
Yeah.
process and then kind of waste hiring manager time and so yeah, it's those types of things that kind of are sometimes out of our control that happen
Yeah.
in recruiting that are never fun.
Yeah. And what happened next? Well, I'm guessing what happened next too is that the team continued to not like future candidates because they wanted this candidate that they originally wanted, and just filling this role becomes so much harder.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The worst. You're not going to turn sponsorship around that quickly for somebody.
Yeah.
So that does suck. And again, it's one of those things that we've all dealt with.
Yeah.
And like what I hear when I hear that story is I got anxious immediately because I know the first thought that I think every recruiter would have is just like, I forgot to ask.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask them.
Right.
They need it. Like I just didn't want to like assume, and then like to have the notes at least that shows you did is nice.
Yeah.
Proper documentation if you're listening. Document things. Write it down. I'm bad at that. Okay. That is a scary one. Now, I always ask, how big is your team?
So we have about 20 on the recruiting team at Hims and Hers currently. Yeah.
So you have a 20-person team. I'm sure you're all overwhelmed at all times.
Yeah.
Recruiting's hard, right? The reason I started the podcast and the newsletter and all these things I do is because I don't think enough people are just like talking to recruiters about like, it sucks right now for all these things. I've always said like, I don't want to talk to you about how to like make your funnel 15% more efficient. There's enough people telling you how to do that.
Sure.
Let's just like talk about the truth here. How do you cope with it, right? Like a large team like that, being overwhelmed, company that has, I know Hims and Hers did a ton of growth in the very short term last year. It was last year, right?
Yeah.
How many people did you hire last year? Do you know? Just curious, because I know like how quick like Hims and Hers just like had to blow up last year.
Yeah. Offhand, I don't know, but I mean, at least for this year, for the operations and high volume side, I feel like we've probably hired about at least 200. Yeah.
So even when you say like a 20-person team, right? Like 200 hires is too many for a 20-person team. It's just like whatever the size is, there's too many hires coming. How do you cope with it, right? How do you cope and like build a community and like keep showing up?
Yeah. So we've really started to make our recruiting like team meetings more intentional. So changing the focus from like a short, weekly session to maybe doing like a bi-weekly session where we're having some learnings where we're, sharing our knowledge. For example, like we have some great sourcers on the team that are good at using AI. We have some members on the team that are really good with like reporting. And so using those sessions to share our knowledge, also highlight wins. So we've been starting to highlight, a team member who's doing a really solid job. Like I feel like you can never do enough of that. And some of that also gets lost, in the day-to-day, just the amount of hiring that we're doing. So that's been really nice. And then I think also starting to show our metrics a little bit more, like what is our North Star? What are we trying to get to? And, how do we get there together? Like what are some of the gaps we're trying to fill as well? So yeah.
I love hearing like that. I last year I spoke at RecFest, and I remember a question from someone in the audience is like, how do we get recruiters and hiring teams like on board and happy what's going on? And I remember I specifically said the same phrase. I said, share the wins. Right? Like where I worked at that time, we had a Slack channel just called All the Wins. And it was just like nothing was too small to put in there. And I don't think enough people do it, like you said, right? Like be the person at your company who just like calls out every good thing from people, right? Who says this sourcer got me 5 candidates today who were all amazing, and like she's doing an amazing job. I think sometimes people think like the win you share has to be like monumental, right? We filled this role and it went amazing, and not as simple as just like this little task was done and it was great. And people show up for that, and they remember the people who say it.
Right. Like we have a recruiting coordinator who's holding it down for the high volume side. I mean, she's a beast in terms of the amount of interviews she's scheduling, and just even highlighting, thank you for scheduling like 10 screens for me, and I know there's 5 other recruiters you're scheduling for as well. So things like that are important to call out.
Yeah. I love hearing that. And of course, right, just like events like this are so huge, right? Like I'm sure you have met so many people that you only knew from the internet. Or things, right? And that's so fun. Or the one in June where it's even smaller. Like small events like this are great for that. I just think that like for recruiters listening and like who read the newsletter and all this stuff, like I push these events and conferences on them so hard. And I'm like, I'm not getting paid. Like I don't get any like cut of like your ticket, but just like it changed my career, I think, when I started coming to things like this. And I just think that like so many of us now are like alone and working
Yeah.
remote, or like, you have a 20-person team, which is great. And so many recruiters are a 1-person team.
Yeah.
Who just like, even in their own company, nobody in their own company even like sort of likes or respects them enough. And like everyone outside of their company hates them too because they're a recruiter.
Yeah.
Like these events are where you like remember like, oh yeah, like we're all doing this.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're all going through it together.
Yeah, amazing. I'm so glad you could join. I'm glad we got to sit down and finally
thank
talk in
you.
person.
Yeah, it's great to
like
hang
I said,
out.
I think it was like June. I saw you. I told you before we started, but I'll tell them like I saw her giving a talk and she was on a panel, and there was someone on the panel who I disagreed with everything they were saying, and every time they said something I disagreed with, Desi responded with exactly what I would have responded, or like wanted someone to respond. I was like, yes, her. Great.
Thank
so I'm
you.
glad we got to sit down, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. It was nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, same.
Enjoy the rest of the
Yeah,
RecFest.
thank you. I
Yeah.
hope to see you at a future RecFest and
course.
some other conferences
Yes.
as well. So I'm sure we'll
course.
see each other around.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, day 2 continues. I'm here with another new friend. Kind of when I sit down with. Yesterday, I brought like 4 very close friends on the podcast, and today I purposely scheduled people that like I've met here. Even someone who I met 5 minutes ago before sitting down with them, because that's sort of the fun, right? And that's the community of this. So I'm here with Beth Wolfe.
Yes.
Beth, we had dinner the other night. I'm going to get into something in a second, but because recruiters ask this question 1,000 times a day, and we don't ask ourselves enough, I always need to start every podcast with the same question. Is this still a good time?
Yes, it's
Okay,
a
good.
wonderful
You're not,
time.
yeah, perfect. I always give people the option. Just like I will reschedule. I'm flexible.
Yeah.
So Beth and I had dinner, not like one-on-one. We were at a dinner together and met. We were next to each other. You're senior director of recruiting.
Yes.
At a company, Daxko, right?
Daxko.
Daxko. You explained to me what they did.
Yes.
It was loud, and I just sort of nodded and smiled. I was like, cool. That's great. What's Daxko do? Oh, listen,
We
this time.
are a software provider for the health and wellness industry. So YMCAs, all sorts of gyms use our software to help power their business, essentially.
Okay. Amazing. How big's your team?
My team is 4 people plus an intern. So I have 2 folks in the U.S., 2 in India, and we have
Okay.
a lovely little intern who helps us out.
Okay, amazing. I always like to get the feel because, like, it doesn't matter if we're 1 person or 100 person. Every recruiting team has the same struggle.
We're all lean, right?
Yeah, we're all leaner than we need to be.
Yeah.
The last guest we just had on, she's like, oh yeah, I have a pretty good team. We're 20 people. I was like, oh, how many hires have you done? She's like, well, we did like 250 hires this year. I'm like, well, see, there's not enough people when you're doing that many hires. So I always like to start every episode with what I call the recruiting breakdown.
Okay.
Because we are all always on the verge of a breakdown. But for the breakdown at RecFest, really, I want to talk about RecFest. It's day 2.
Yes.
We've been here for a few days now. We're all very sun-kissed.
The sun is beating down on us right
there's
now.
some beats on us. How's RecFest been for you?
It's been great. It's been so fun. The greatest, I guess, like benefit of RecFest is doing this, right? It's
Yeah.
connecting, commiserating to a degree. But learning. I was in a session earlier with Johnny Campbell, and to me, I'm like, golly, this session alone is worth the price
Yeah.
of admission. So, just getting to pour into my team, pour into myself a little bit we empty our cup constantly.
Yeah.
It's nice to get a little and receive some validation
Yeah.
around some of the struggles that you have. Where you're like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
We're all struggling with.
We're
these
all
things.
doing the same
Yeah.
things, and that's exactly why we have this podcast, right? In this newsletter, I tell people all the time. I joke like, oh, well, like, what's the goal? Like, what are you like working on? I was like, I have no interest in helping recruiters improve their pipeline efficiency by 10%. Right? There's enough. I don't want to talk about like
We
the
have
latest, the strategy for how to find the hardest to reach candidates. Like, let's just fucking talk about the fact that recruiting sucks sometimes,
Sometimes
but
it
we
does.
all show up
We do.
every day and keep
Somehow
doing
we
it.
keep doing it.
Yes.
Right.
And the internet hates us, and we're also
really
hated
do.
internally.
Sometimes.
Usually at our company, like recruiting tends to be the least popular job both in and outside of the company. So we're here for each other, and that is what makes events like this great.
It's amazing.
Yeah. What made this talk you sat in so good? I always ask people like, what's the best talk you've seen? while
Well,
you're here?
it had so many tangible takeaways, right? Because everybody's talking AI everywhere you go.
I've heard.
And Johnny's talk was really granular. He's like, hey, here's how you can actually, word your prompts better. Here's how you can build custom GPTs. Here's how you can actually start doing some of the agentic AI, true agentic. You know, 'cause everybody likes to say they're doing it, but it's not. you
They're
know?
just sending a call to ChatGPT.
Exactly. And then, even just it being as granular as like, which platforms or which tools are better for what, right? So like ChatGPT is great all in one. Claude is a great, for coding. Grok is good because, it has no morals and ethics.
Yes.
Let's just go find the folks on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Now I need to ask you.
Yes.
You can tell this story from a current company or an old company. You don't have to tell us anywhere it's from, but recruiting is a nightmare.
Sometimes.
And I always have to, you don't have to preface it. Recruiting is a nightmare, but we still show up.
We do.
But
do.
I need to know, what is your recruiting nightmare story?
Ooh, gosh, I just can only pick one.
We can do a longer
Yeah,
episode
like,
sometime, and
that's
you
so
can
funny.
give me 4 of them.
It's funny because I was talking to somebody just last night, and it's always like, a hiring manager or somebody who just goes rogue, right?
Yes.
And just does their own thing, and they just like throw something at you, and they're like, "Hey, we're making this offer," and you're like, "We don't even have a fucking position open. What are you talking about? An offer?
Yes.
Where's this offer coming from?" Right? And like legitimately happened yesterday, where like hiring manager made an offer for a job that literally has not been posted yet.
Are we
got
getting a recruiting
approved.
nightmare story the day
Like
after
the
it happened?
day after
Okay.
it happened. So like, jobs approved yesterday and, offer goes out and we don't even have it approved or we don't have the candidate even in our system.
Yeah.
So it's great.
It was someone they knew.
Is a
just-
previous employee, like talk to him, we're going to make this offer.
Yeah.
Cool. It's over budget. That's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So, and like, why is it always sales? Like, why is it always sales?
It's always sales.
It's always sales. And I love my
always
sales
a VP
team.
of sales.
I love them. They know I love them. But I'm like, why are y'all always the rule breakers? Because
Yeah.
they know they can do it.
Because they know, because they're the cool kids.
They're like,
They
we're
bring
cool.
in the
We
money.
bring in the cash, baby.
Yeah. And just again, if it just doesn't work, we'll just fire them in 3 months. I'm like, I don't want to
I don't
hire
wanna do
people with that
though.
idea.
Quality of hire, what?
Yeah.
So-
Yes. Every sales VP I've ever, we were hiring an SDR once at a company I worked for. And as soon as the interview was over, this SDR, because salespeople all do the same things, right? This SDR recorded a loom, just like the internet tells you to do. He sent it to the VP of sales immediately after a recruiting call. And was just like, oh, yeah, and I learned this and this and this from Mike, and I'm excited, and I think that's cool. And the VP of sales messaged me and my director, and was just like, why don't we have an offer to this guy yet? Like, I want an offer for him. I was like, because we hung up the first screen. You've never even talked to him. He just sent it. We actually did give this person an offer. They went through the process, but because they went through the proper process,
Exactly.
not because they sent a loom.
Gosh, a process?
Yeah. It turned out the process did its job.
What?
Yeah. Okay. That I love that we got like a day later story.
Well, and they know I love them.
Because people are usually like, a couple years ago in an unknown company,
and,
you're like, no, this
Acme
company.
Co.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like, again, our teams are usually great.
Yeah.
And I mean, and we'll work it out as we always do, right? That's what recruiting does. I feel like we can always kind of like, put lipstick on a pig and make it work.
Yeah.
But,
And that's fine, because if this person doesn't work out, it'll just be you and your team's
it'll
fault.
be not, they'll be
They'll
good.
blast you on the internet, and everything will be
So,
great.
it'll be good. One thing I will say though, like, I'm pretty fortunate in that, like, we have a pretty good reputation at Daxko.
Okay.
Like, we're, our managers work well with us. They're not usually skirting the system. They understand, and we're not as hated as I've been at other.
Yeah.
orgs.
You've been there a very long time, right?
Been there 11 years.
11 years, which means it must be good.
It must be good.
Yeah.
Must be, or at least not all bad.
Sometimes
right?
I do forget that there's recruiters who have just like worked somewhere a long time and don't just like
Yes,
get
that
laid
just-
off every 6 months and
yes, I
go
know.
somewhere
I
else.
mean, like, I don't know what
I'm like, I know what that's like.
I know.
Yeah,
So-
well, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Because I tell people all the time, I'm like, I can't tell you the last boss I worked for more than like 6 months before either them or me was gone. So, like,
Yeah.
okay. I always like to end when we talk about the reason we do this podcast, the newsletter is like because of what we're going through. And what it always like, how do you cope, right? How do you build a community and cope with just what it's like?
Yeah.
Obviously, you work somewhere good, which helps.
I work somewhere
But like
good.
outside of that, right? Even just like, how do you keep? We're
Same.
kind of so ostracized. Like, how do you keep sane?
Okay, so again, I'm really lucky. My husband's a recruiter,
Okay.
so I can commiserate
Yeah.
at home. my daughter's also a recruiter, and she's like my little mini best friend, so I can commiserate with her.
This is a whole
We
recruiting
do. We have
family.
like a little recruiting clan.
This
It
is
didn't,
like-
we didn't plan it that way, but it just worked out.
Usually you hear this with like doctors.
Yeah.
You're just like, my daughter is going into the family business and I could not be happier.
Followed my footsteps. So no, my daughter, funny because, like everyone in recruiting fell into it.
Sure.
She went to a recruiting agency and they recruited her. She was trying to get a marketing job.
That's how I got into recruiting too.
Really?
I asked a recruiting agency to help me. It was my friend had a recruiting agency. I was like, is there anyone who does what you do, but for me?
Yeah.
That can just like help me out.
Help me
I
get
had
a
worked
job.
at the company for 10 years, like pre-recruiting days. And like he was just like, why don't you just work here? You'd be good at it.
Yeah.
And there we are.
There
And now I'm
was.
doing a fucking
Yeah,
podcast about recruiting.
exactly. So it's kind of like the recruiting world's weird, but yeah. So that's helpful for me because I can just like commiserate at home. But also, I mean, like it is important to have like a good network. I've got some strong connections from different people that I've worked with at Daxko over the years. Even like my good friend Brandon, who invited me to dinner. Just being able to reach out to get that validation or to check on things like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is this crazy?
Yeah. Yeah, those friends, that community, events like this, right? Like
Yes.
actually meeting face to face.
Yeah.
Like Brandon, like you referenced, and like I met him at face to face. I think it was RecFest last year. It was the first
Okay,
face to face meeting, right? And that's just like so important.
Yeah.
And so many online friends that you sort of meet in the person are just like people who come up to me, they're just like, oh, I love your content, and it's just like when you write this, it like helps so much. Like, right, like that's why it's there, and then you actually see the person in person, and right, there's people sitting all around this place, just like eating pizza together and like hanging out, who only see each other at these events, and that's why I push recruiters so hard to like come to these events.
Thanks. Yeah.
Like people who read the newsletter probably think I like work for these events because I'm just like begging and sending the ticket links. I'm like, just come, like
try
say
it.
hi to me, say hi to people, like just especially like remote one-person recruiting
Oh my
teams.
gosh,
like,
yes.
you need to come to
You
these.
need this, like soak this up. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, some of these people around here, like I've literally been following since 2008.
Yeah.
Like
And you meet them in person.
you're like,
It's
oh
just
my gosh,
Yeah.
so good to actually finally meet you,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Being a C-level celebrity at an HR event,
gosh.
it's just like amazing.
Yes.
You're like, you're famous. I'm like, yeah, I'm the kind of person who gets recognized 6 times at an HR event. So like, imagine that level of fame. Yeah.
I mean, I fangirled for a second when we were at dinner. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I saw you. Like your book. Yes.
You're like, what book? Oh.
Yeah, the book.
The book that's everywhere.
Yes.
And by that, I mean, I just put it everywhere. Usually people either know me for a screwdriver on LinkedIn or a book, so I carry the screwdriver around.
Oh my gosh.
This has been amazing. Thank you for sitting down. I'm so glad that we had our private one-on-one dinner the other night.
Yes.
And yeah. But it's been great to meet you,
You too.
and to talk, and I'm sure we'll be around for the rest of this
To
festival.
sweat in the heat together.
Yes. Well, I did the 5 to 6 hour yesterday in here, and we had the sunset, and it was nice as the hour went. We just like felt it get cooler. It's been very nice.
Nice.
But thank you. Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you inviting
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Bye. Okay, this is my final RecFest podcast recording in our Purple Acorn live stream, 2-day long live stream. I'm here with another new friend. I've been telling people, so my first day here, I only brought on people I know very well. My second day, because so much of this podcast is about building and growing your recruiting community,
Yeah.
I've wanted to purposely bring on people that I don't know and get to know them and meet. So I'm here with Stephanie Jordan.
Yeah.
You are senior recruiter of the Washington Post.
Currently, yeah.
Which I'm sure has plenty of interesting stories to it. But before I get into anything, I always have to ask, because recruiters ask this question 1,000 times a day, but we never ask ourselves, is this still a good time?
It's still a good time.
Still a good time? Perfect. I'm glad we're able to sit down.
Yes.
And we have you here. So you're Washington Post. I want to get into what I call the recruiting breakdown in a little bit, but I'm curious, what do you recruit for at the Washington Post?
Well, so I'm currently in contract right now,
Okay.
so I'm doing an operations business and some of the tech roles.
Okay. Because I like hear it. I'm like, oh, like reporters? No, you don't recruit
No,
reporters. And
no.
like, I worked for a Washington Post organization company years and years ago.
Okay.
But awesome. So I like to start every episode with what I call recruiting breakdown,
Okay.
which is typically because recruiters are always on the verge of a breakdown.
Yes.
But today for my breakdown, what I really like to talk about is RecFest. So
Okay.
you're on day 2.
Yes.
You've been here for the 2 days. How's RecFest going for you?
It's been amazing. So this is actually my very first RecFest.
Okay.
I have always wanted to go, and this year was the first year I actually was able to make it work. So, I go to a lot of conferences, and this is completely different from anything I've ever been to.
Yes.
And I did do my research a little bit before I came, so I knew what to expect. Because originally I was like, I'm going to come with all my work stuff, and I'm going to do all this. And I was like, no, just come here and relax and be amongst your peers. And it's very, very relaxed, and it's just like very impactful, I feel. So it's been incredible.
It is such a different vibe.
Yes.
I mean, it's, obviously you're outside in the sun, which changes
that's
it, but
been-
it's
it's
the less stuffiness.
Yes.
You say you go to a lot, so I'm guessing
Yeah.
most of them are like in Vegas at giant convention
Yeah,
centers.
exactly, yeah.
And I've been to all of those too, right? And they're overwhelming,
Yes.
and they're hot. It's hot here, but
Yeah.
they're loud and they're lit up, and
Overstimulating,
It's nice you actually get to have real conversations.
Exactly, yes.
Have you gotten to sit in any interesting talks that are sticking with you?
So yes, yesterday I did one about AI, the fraud detection candidates, 'cause that's something that's very big that we're dealing with.
Sure.
And then neurodivergence as well, which is really important to me. And there's been a lot of really interesting things.
Was that the one with like there was an AI app that helps companies
Yes.
dealing? Yes, someone else told me about that one yesterday.
And I was like, so I am neurodivergent, and someone like it never occurred to me like. I always hear the opposite in terms of AI being used to sort of weed out folks with neurodivergence, or sort of like working against us. And it's like, oh, this is a tool that can actually help. Like that's like, wow, that is something I never even thought about. So that's really
built
cool.
by somebody who was neurodivergent themselves, right? And
Yes.
sort of, and that's something that one of the things I talk about a ton on this podcast and newsletter is like, there's so many AI tools, and like it becomes our like instinct to almost fight them.
Yes.
But it's not that AI itself is bad,
Yeah.
right? It is the who's building it, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
Is it some tech bro who's just like, I know how to solve this, versus someone who's like, my expertise works here. And that's what I love hearing about that one, is it's someone who's just like, this is a problem I deal with.
Exactly.
And this is my knowledge. And I told a story on like another episode about like when I was at HR Tech, this company grabbed me and they do like AI therapy and AI therapy bot, which right away just like sent a little like chill down my spine. I was like, no, I don't like that. I don't like the chat GPT people are already using it for therapy. But they were like, no, you have to meet this woman. And they brought me over and she was just like Harvard educated, Harvard professor, research paper studied. And like she's who like built this AI.
Wow.
So it's not chat GPT like hyping you up, right? She's like, you have to demo it. Like I put 20 years worth of like therapy knowledge into this LLM. And the conversation was like talking to a real therapist.
Wow.
And she was like, I'm not replacing therapy.
Yeah.
You don't do this instead of actually going all the time. But like, if you needed to talk to her, right? And like, I was testing it and like really trying to kind of push it, and it responded in the way that an actual therapist would.
Yeah.
Not just like okay, well, here's what to do.
Yeah.
That's the feeling I get when I hear multiple people tell me about this AI for neurodivergent folks.
So it was really fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always like to ask everybody, because recruiting is a nightmare.
Yeah.
What is your recruiting nightmare story?
Okay, so I was thinking about this, and this is actually the very first role I ever worked in as a baby recruiter about 9 years ago, because I started as a recruiting coordinator and a sourcer. And it was for the company I worked at. It was supposed to be a role to visit a temporal. Someone had an accident, and they ended up passing away.
Okay.
And so this is my very first role, working on a role where someone who had passed away, dealing with a very emotional team and a very sort of stressful situation, because it was like, well, what do I do? What do I tell candidates? And dealing with that, and I didn't know the person well, but also like, dealing with my own sort of sense of things. And so managing that situation was very interesting. I was like, if I can deal with that, I can deal with anything else, because it was just very, very, very heightened.
Yeah.
And we found a great candidate that the team loved as well, but it was just a lot of like moving pieces that were just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And that story's hard. And I've been in, one of the reasons I love talking about like recruiting nightmares is because I feel like we've all had similar situations. Like every listener, every reader, like we've had something similar.
Yeah.
And I've had the same thing where I placed somebody and it was a little bit longer into it, but they wound up passing away.
Yeah.
But there's these like memes online and jokes about like, oh, if you die, the company will replace you. Keep going.
Yeah.
And that's hard because there is a callous feeling to that.
It is,
but
yeah.
at the same time, business does go on for this company.
Yeah.
And like it might sound crappy to have to say like, yeah, so I had to find someone else to kind of go, but it's just like, it's not that we're sad this happened, but this company can't stop operating because someone that they're about to employ did.
Yeah.
So like, of course they're going to replace you. It's different in the grand scheme of life, but it is still an employee who they plan to have that's no longer with the company for whatever reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that story's hard. It's heightened emotions.
Yeah.
And you feel bad about like, oh, I'll just replace and do this, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's hard, and these are things recruiters deal with that people like don't think about. Like
Exactly.
they just think we're sort of sitting there like, haha, death, and now I fill a role again.
It's like,
corporate,
what an
go.
opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like no one wants to do this.
Yeah.
No one wants to deal with that.
Yeah,
Like,
no one wants to, but like, it has to be
right.
done.
Exactly. Be
That's
very
where we
sensitive
come
about
in.
it for everybody involved, and that it's just like it was eye-opening, and I'm glad that I was able to be the one to work on this role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think you started telling me this story last night.
Yeah.
But we were in like the loudest bar and party ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have no idea where I can only hear half this story, but I'm excited tomorrow
Yeah.
to hear more of this story. But okay.
Yeah.
Now, what I always ask people as well, right, is it's hard being a recruiter, right? The internet hates us.
Yes, they do.
We're like the least popular person in corporate right
We
now.
are.
We're hated both internally at our own companies
Yes.
and externally in many
Exactly, yeah,
situations. How do you cope with it? Like, how do you deal with that and build a community and sort of keep showing up anyway?
But part of me is like, well, I'm being the one to combat that sort of mentality of visibility. Like, I try to be like, if I'm going to go out here and talk about recruiting from a recruiting standpoint, like, for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to try to demystify it, especially for like, because I have a lot of friends who are job seekers, and I used to post online about job seeking stuff as well. It's like, let me be the person to come in here and like pull back the curtain so you can see exactly what it's like, but also understanding like this, but so much one can do. Like, I literally have had conversations with people like friends about ATSs, and then telling about like, okay, literally breaking down, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Being told, I don't believe you. And it's
Yeah,
just
they don't
like-
want to hear it from you.
Right. So at that point, it's just like, whatever. It's a new problem. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, really, for me, I think also just being as empathetic and open and sort of being a champion for people, especially for candidates, is a big thing for me. And just having the visibility of like, I really want to be here. I want to show you all that I am the one here. I'm here to help. I'm here to help the candidates. I'm here to be like a champion for my hiring managers as well. Like, I know this is hard. Like, let me take as much off your plate as possible and make this process as easy as possible and really be like your partner and guiding you there. So, I mean, this is a lot of like, I kind of like joke, it's like, I feel like being a recruiter is like being a project manager in a way, because you are the project manager of all these things, but being like a competent project manager and also being a brand ambassador. So it's a lot of high visibility, but
Yes.
sometimes at the end of the day, it's just like, all right, whatever. If you don't like me, you don't like me. That is what it is. I know that I like what I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
I gotta like just let it dust off my shoulders.
Yeah, we are the face that most people see.
Yes.
In many cases, the only face of a company if they only do
Exactly.
one interview.
Yeah.
And we are the ones who have to say the hard things, right? And pass along the bad news
Exactly,
and do
yep.
all those things. And it gets tiring, right? And it's where events like this are so helpful, right?
Yes.
Like the podcast, the newsletter, events like this, it's all about everyone out there remembering, like, we're all doing this. We're all
Yeah.
going through the same things. Everything we do feels like a lose-lose situation.
Yes, it does, yeah.
That can be so tough. And I just think that like my listeners and the people who read the newsletter, they probably think I work for these festivals the way I'm constantly pushing, like, come to these, come buy
Yeah.
tickets, here's a link. Like, it really is just a matter of like coming to RecFest last year. So last year's RecFest was my first time, and like, that I felt like changed my career.
Wow.
Because that was just sort of like this in-person like meeting, all these things were so different.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
No, this is really incredible in that sense. It's just like there's so many people here who I have like followed for years. I've been in community with for years, and have never met in person. Like, wow, I actually have a conversation. I just met with Joel like a moment ago. I'm
Yeah.
like, I've again been following with him for years. Like I used to like post on Twitter and stuff with him, and
I know.
was like, wow, I just met. It's like meeting a celebrity. Like,
Joel is the celebrity around here.
Yeah.
Joel and I, this is a funny story. Joel and I live 15 minutes from each other.
oh wow, yeah.
We've only ever seen each other at events, except for
hilarious.
once where both of our families went to the same beach one day. And like we ran into each other for 15 minutes away. We
Right.
could see each other anytime we want.
Right.
We only do it like at this event
Yeah.
or when we go to Vegas for
Exactly.
an event.
Yeah, that's how
Because
it
that's
is.
what happens
Yeah.
in life, and that's why these events are so important. And yeah, you get to meet people. I met Hung Lee earlier today.
nice.
I read Recruiting Brain Food every
Yeah.
Monday. Like,
Yeah.
just, and I met him. Got to talk to him, and I was like fangirling, right?
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, like when people come up to me like, oh, I love your content, that's great. Like
Yeah.
that's how I feel when I see like him.
Yeah.
And that's just so cool to be able to come and do those things.
yeah. Yeah. Great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got to sit down.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing to meet you.
Same with you, yeah.
I know we've had a fun time.
Yeah.
I know RecFest has been fun.
Yeah.
The Purple Acorn live stream is continuing.
Nice.
I don't know who's next, but I've done another hour.
Okay.
This is hopefully kind of another episode here.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we got to sit. And Stephanie, I hope people find you online.
Yes, we do, yeah.
And I appreciate you joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.